This is the video that goes along with order of operations with and without variables. So, the order you want to do is you want to start with parentheses. So anything inside the parentheses goes first. So if you have inside 2 minus 1, and then on the outside of the parentheses plus 2, you would do 2 minus 1 first to get 1, and then add 2 to that. After the parentheses, anything with an exponent, you do that next. The next, and this is important, is multiplication and division. Multiplication does not always go before division. On this step, you go left to right on the equation. If division shows up before multiplication, you do that first. After you've done the multiplication and the division in the problem, you then go on and do the addition and the subtraction. Same way as multiplication and division. If subtraction comes before in the problem than addition, you do the subtraction first. The reason why this matters, if you don't go in this specific order, you're going to come out with something that is not right or funky. And that happens if you possibly do addition before subtraction, even though subtraction comes first. So here are two examples. The first person, well, they both had the problem 12 divided by 3 times 8. The first person did 12 divided by 3 to get 4, and then multiplied that by 8 to get 32. The second person did 12 divided by 3 times 8. They did 3 times 8 first, so they had 12 divided by 24 to get a half. These are not the same answer, so obviously someone did not follow the order of operations. It says we go left to right with multiplication and division. So we do 12 divided by 3 before we do 3 times 8. So instead, we're going to go with the first way. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now that we have that answer, we can multiply by 8. And just a forewarning, because you'll see it from time to time, there's 3 different ways you can do multiplication, and you've probably seen it before. This little dot you see means multiplication. An X means multiplication, and a little star means multiplication. We're probably going to stay away from the X for now on, because now that we're getting into algebra, we'll see X as a variable instead. How does the order of operations change with variables? It doesn't. We want to do it the exact same way as before, but what we want to try to do is our ultimate goal is to get the variables on one side and all the numbers on the other. That way we can solve for whatever the variable is. So here's an example. We have 2 minus 4 in parentheses, then have that squared, times that by x, and that is equal to 24 divided by 6. So the first step I did was inside the parentheses. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So my new expression, or equation, is negative 2 squared times x equals 24 divided by x. So now that I have parentheses out of the way, I have an exponent, so that's the next thing I need to do. Negative 2 squared is 4, so I have 4x. And if you notice on the other side, I kind of jumped the gun and already did that. 24 divided by 6 is also 4. So that's how I got 4x equals 4. And then our last step is divide by 4 to get x by itself, and we get x to be 1. So our next term, 3x and negative 8x. Those are the same thing or like terms because they both have a variable in it. If there was 2 numbers without a variable, those would also be like terms. So the first thing we want to do when we're looking at an equation like this is see if we have like terms on both sides of the equal sign. If you have 2 sets of numbers or 2 sets of variables on one side of the equal sign, let's combine those first. So we have negative 5x plus 2 equals 4 times 5x minus 14 now, because 3 minus 8 is negative 5. Now that we don't have any more like terms, we have one more order before we just have a number and a variable on each side. So negative 5x plus 2, there is nothing more with the order of operations we need to do. But on the other side, 4 times 5. That's 20, so we now have 20x minus 14. Now what we want to do is, like I said before, our ultimate goal is to get the x's on one side, or the variables on one side, and the numbers on the other. When you move something to one side, you have to do the same thing on the other. So in this case, I'm going to move the negative 5x to the other side. the way I do that is by canceling it on the side it is. You cancel by doing the opposite operation. Since this is -5, I add 5 to both sides. That will cancel with the left side -5x. So now I have 2 equals 25 minus 14, because 20x plus 5x is 25. Now I need to get the variables on the other side. Like before, I'm going to add 14 because in the problem we are subtracting 14. So 2 plus 14 is 16, so 16 equals 25x. The last thing we need to do to get x by itself is divide by 25. We get a decimal, it's fine, x equals 0.64. Okay, what you need to do now is come to me and get a practice error sheet. On it, some problems are worked out correctly, some are not. You have to determine which ones are worked correctly and which ones are not, and the ones that are not you need to fix on the back side of your paper.